next level. So first off, if you're watching this as a recorded live stream, there's going to be timestamps in the description of this video where I basically outline every mod that I'm going to be covering, so you can just jump straight to that in case you need help with any specific mods or any of the topics that I'm going to be covering. Many of the mods will be pretty self-explanatory. Some of them are really simple, but the ones that that are a bit more complex, I'm gonna spend a few minutes or seconds, depending on how many questions we get in the chat, in between one mod or another to answer most of them. And then if for whatever reason your question doesn't get answered and you still have doubts, I am going to do that at the very end of the live stream. I'm gonna leave a long period of time to answer just questions in general. So that's how the format it's going to be. And yeah, let's just start with who is this video for? So it's mostly for beginners. If you're an advanced City Skylines player, I mean, you can watch this. I'm probably going to be explaining things that you already know. The idea here is like mostly for people who maybe played vanilla and they just want to slowly get into mods, but everything feels a bit overwhelming. This will be a great sort of starting point. Let's see. This is obviously not for console players. If you're a console player, I'm sorry to tell you that mods are not a thing for console and most likely never will be. All of the mods are in the Steam Workshop, and as far as I understand, the Steam Workshop, like, there's no game on any console platform that connects to the Steam Workshop. They're like totally different companies. So yeah, you can still watch this video if you have Cities Skylines version on console, but not a whole lot you might be able to get from this. In terms of performance, so the mods that I'm going to be covering are pretty lightweight. They don't necessarily will add a ton to your performance, even if you're, okay, here's the thing. If I haven't done like a scientific test or anything like that, so don't quote me on that. But unless you have like a total potato computer, if you can run the basic vanilla game without any issues, the number of mods that I'm going to be covering are like, they're not going to affect your performance significantly or at all. And if anything, it will improve your performance. There's a couple mods there that are optimizations to the base game, so just something to keep in mind. Now, there's a few downsides of using mods. One of them is, the main one is the fact that mods tend to load at the beginning of each session. Whenever you boot up the game for the first time, that's when mods get loaded. The thing is, if you're used to like switching save games without closing the game, unfortunately, that's something that you may not be able to do from now on. As soon as you start using mods, a lot of mods do work between saves, like if you load a new save or if you quick to the main menu of the game and then load another thing. Some still work, but most of them probably won't, because they, as far as I understand it, and again, don't quote me on this, but they put a lot of things on memory that they don't get reloaded when you load the save game. And I'm sure there's going to be experts in the chat that are going to like specifically tell me why this is a problem. But basically, if you're using mods, you'll have to quit the game completely and then restart it every time you want to switch save games, which to me is really not a big deal. I don't find a problem with that. The game loads back really quickly anyways. Even with a ton of assets, it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes to load. And this is with like thousands of assets, which I'm not going to be covering in this video, by the way. This is only mods, no custom assets. Everything vanilla, but a few mods. Let's see. And then the last thing on my list is to just don't be afraid to try things. Even if you have a potato computer, just try these mods or try them one at a time. Like, the worst that could happen is your game will crash and it will quit, and then you can restart it again. It's not going to destroy your computer. Always make backups of your save games. Don't overwrite your save game all the time. Create new versions every single time you make changes. I do that. I have like hundreds and hundreds of save games from the same projects because that allows you to go back in case something is wrong. Mods tend to be broken after there's a game update. That's a pretty common thing that happens. Lately, the last couple updates have been have been pretty straightforward in terms of the developers of City Skylines have teamed up with the most popular mod creators. So mod creators already have versions of whatever the next version of the game will be, so they can test their own mods before they're even out. So that's why usually within 48 hours, everything sort of works. But some modders just, kind of drift away from the community and do other things, and there's a lot of, unsupported stuff in the workshop, so that's something that you gotta be careful. Let's see. I'm having a lot of comments in chat saying that everyone, or at least a lot of people, takes like 20 minutes to load and stuff like that. That is not normal. You might be missing a few mods that make that loading process way faster. So hopefully by the time you watch this video, your game will load a little bit faster than that. All right, so we're gonna start by closing this thing. Let me show you the list that I put together. And this is just a list that has 17 mods. There's a lot of things that I could add here, but this is just like the bare minimum, or things that I recommend if you're just getting started. I'm gonna go through one by one of these mods. In fact, there's gonna be a link in the description later. Actually, I can just send it to you right now in the chat so that everyone can see. This is the collection that I'm looking at right now. You're going to be able to just subscribe to all of these at once. I suggest you just go, one by one, or just pick a few that you like or that you're comfortable trying out, and then just keep adding more things as you go. It's pretty simple. There's 17 here. There's a subscribe all button. In fact, let me actually walk you through the process of getting a mod in City Skylines. This is mostly if you're playing vanilla, if you never have zero ideas on how this works. Let me find it, for example. So this is, we're in the Steam workshop for City Skylines, in case you didn't know. We can actually go to the main page. This is what it looks like. And there's a button here that says subscribe. In this case, I'm already subscribed, so that way, that's why it says it that way. When you do, when you click subscribe, that's just the first step. The second step is to actually go into the game. So let me boot up the game here real quick. I have it in window mode so that I can quickly shift between things. And then you want to go to the content manager, then go to mods, and if you search for find it, there it will be. You have to turn it on. By default, if you first subscribe to a mod, it will be off. You have to turn it on. Just something to keep in mind. This is a really, really quick way of just or a really quick tutorial on how to get mods working. There's better tutorials out there. I suggest you go look for them, or just wait until the end of this live stream, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. But this is sort of in a nutshell how it works. Someone is saying, is there a way to unsubscribe all things in the workshop? Yes, that's actually a great question. Let me show you. So if you go to your menu here, then go to content, workshop items, and if you go to subscribed items, I know it's such an annoying flow, but there's this button, subscribe from all. So this will reset everything. Let's say you want to start from a clean slate. This is what you should do. Just subscribe from it all. There's a lot of mods that are not compatible with each other. So if you're having issues, this is usually a good way to reset everything and make sure that that you're starting clean in a way. If that makes sense. All right. Oh yeah, and there's, by the way, I just see it in the chat. There's another option that you can do. Let me quit the game real quick and show you a different way of doing this. This is more of a temporary way in case you don't want to lose the things that you subscribe to. So you would go, you would right-click on City Skylines in the Steam app, properties, and then if you go to set launch options, you can do -no workshop, if I'm not mistaken. That's about it. Yeah. Click OK, click close, and now if I run the game, it won't connect to the Steam Workshop at all. And you'll see that the workshop is disabled. So if I go to the content manager, I have no assets, I have no mods, I only have the vanilla mods and the mods that are local. just ignore these. I have local copies of some of these, but just don't worry about it. Because this is very useful if you're using the content, the editors, if you're creating custom assets or things like that. That's a good way to quickly just pause everything from the workshop, make sure that you're running vanilla 100%, test your things, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you, Chin, for your donation. Hello to you as well. Oh, by the way, if for whatever reason you have like this burning question and somehow gets lost in the chat, super chat is on. Also, I thought I'd disable all the Twitch notifications. We're live on Twitch, by the way, so if you prefer Twitch, that's another option. I'm still unable to customize the way Twitch alerts look like with the crappy GIF and the font that just all squiggly and weird. Yeah, I need to figure that out at some point. But all right, so let's. I gotta exit the game again because I don't want no workshop, because we're gonna use a lot of workshop things. All right, we're gonna close that, and let's go back to my collection, which you can find in my Steam profile, which you can follow. Like 4,279 people are. It's called Mod Essentials, strict picks. I might like add a nice picture to this later and things like that. I'm not gonna go in order. I'm gonna go start in with the simple ones. So the first one that I'm gonna talk about is Less Steam. So Less Steam is it basically optimizes the way the game talks to the Steam Workshop. I think it's related to how it queries and how it just uses the Steam API. It just makes it a little bit faster to download things and import things. It's a super lightweight mod. You just subscribe to it and you forget about it. There's like not even a UI. You just do it. You can read more in the description. I'm not gonna bother you with the details, but that's pretty much what it is. This is a must, in my opinion. The second mod, which is the mod that may potentially improve your loading speed and your RAM usage even, is loading screen mod. So this mod is doing a lot of things. It's a pretty powerful mod. Just be sure there's a test version of this mod that I think it's only available or only active when there's like a game update, so that people can like beta test and things like that. Loading screen mod does a lot of things, like I was saying. So this is what it looks like. I'm gonna show it to you now when I load a proper save game. It tells you, first of all, it tells you everything that's being loaded in the background. It gives you all this information. Some of these things are pretty self-explanatory. If you have duplicate assets, it will try to combine them so that it doesn't use as much RAM. If there's assets that are not found, let's say you forgot to subscribe them or someone took them from the Steam Workshop, it will be listed here. Obviously, imagine if you have a ton of assets, this is going to be a list that will happen pretty quickly. So there's an option that the mod has. Let me actually load the game again so I can show you where it is, because by default I think it's off. But it creates this document that is super useful. Just give me a second to see if I can find it. Here it is. Okay, great. So this is a document that it puts out. It's let me make it big so that you can see. These are some, for example, this is the last time I loaded the save game that I'm about to show you. And someone's asking, where's the Mod Essentials package? There's no package, there's this collection. I'm gonna post it again in chat. There you go. Well, this actually is not very useful. Let me open a different one. For example, episode 3 of Night Owl, which is not even out for patrons yet. So it's going to put out this report. Let me actually show you where it is. If you go to mods, loading screen mod, you can check this option, save assets report, in this directory. You can choose which directory you want. And so here's all the duplicate assets. All of these will link to the actual Steam Workshop, so you can subscribe or unsubscribe if you need to. Pretty straightforward. For example, this one was not found. I think it's an asset that Sven Verlin created this for PDXCon. I specifically choose not to subscribe to this one particularly, so it's showing as missing, but in case you forgot to do that, then you could just go back and subscribe manually. Someone's saying in the chat that the link is not showing up. Really? I see it in the chat. I see it on oh, but I don't see it on YouTube. Okay. Let me post that again. Apologies. It's showing up on Twitch, but not on YouTube. That one should show up. Let me know if it doesn't. When is Night Elf 3 coming out? I'm aiming for Tuesday or Wednesday. That's I already, the episode is recorded. I just need to do the commentary and put it up for patrons. So, loading 3 mod. Let me focus back again on this. So yeah, putting this mod on, it will just give you reports of everything that you're missing, and it will tell you if you're running out of memory too. RAM is like one of the most critical things if you're going to be using custom assets, not just custom mods, just primarily custom assets, because it has to load textures and things like that. So yeah, if you want to know in detail everything that this mod is doing, I'm going to show you to you how it like actually works in just a second, but this is a mandatory mod, and this will optimize your loading time too. So if it takes 30 minutes to load, having this mod will probably cut that in half, if not more. So kind of powerful. If you already have this mod and it takes 30 minutes to load, maybe it's time to upgrade your computer. Or something else is wrong. I don't know. Maybe you're running Crysis on a different tab or something like that. All right, so let's go back to my list. I think all the other mods that I'm gonna be covering can actually be covered in game. So let's actually boot up a game here. And let's see, I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna load this. So in case you want to see this the city that I'm about to load, this is how it works, by the way. You can see my RAM going up as everything loads. These were some local assets that I created for this project that I then deleted because I really didn't need them. If you want to see this city working, you should go find just go through my archives of videos and search for 99% vanilla. That's what it was. It's a 2-part series where I created the city. The reason why I'm choosing the city, by the way, in case you you were wondering, it's well, mostly because it's a functional city. Everything is working. I get to show you just how all these mods work on a real project instead of starting on a blank slate, and also because it's the only city that I have that actually can render at least 30 to 40 frames per second. The frame rate goes down significantly as you start adding custom assets, or not even custom assets, just assets in general. They're not super optimized, but that's why I'm showing you this. All these trees are super weird. That's just how these trees render. That's here. Let me show you this. This is ridiculous. I really wish that they would fix this. This is, yeah. I wouldn't use these assets in general, but you can create some pretty decent looking stuff in vanilla. This is all vanilla, by the way. There's just like 0 custom assets. Everything that you see here is vanilla assets with a few of the expansions, primarily Park Life, which is why I put this video together. All right, so someone's saying, do you also have the problem that thumbnails are not showing up in search box? Nope. You mean this? No, they all show up. This is a little bit broken, but it works fine on other projects that I have. So I don't know. We'll talk about Find It in a minute. I don't know if that's the mod that you have, but well, that you're asking for. So let's scroll to the top. I guess Find It is the first one. So let's talk about Find It. This mod is by SamSamTS. He's a crazy, amazing mod creator. And when you have this mod enabled, let me go full screen here for a second. Can I do that relatively quickly without destroying everything? Let's go 4K, full screen. Boom. There we go. Great. That was pretty painless. So it will give you this magnifying glass icon, and it will literally put every single asset and building and just every props, just you name it, everything. Actually, there's categories for everything that's listed in this mod. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, by the way, if you're playing vanilla, I should probably hover over this again to reset that window. If you're playing vanilla, all of the mods that I'm talking about will make you build things faster and more efficiently in vanilla. Some of those mods can be used for cheating, but by default they don't allow you to cheat. I'm sorry, by default they're not cheats on their own. You have to like use them for cheating. So for example, let's say you want to place a unique building, and instead of going through the menus and paying for the unique buildings and whatnot, like for example the cost of this one is 1.5 million, you can find the space elevator, if I'm not mistaken, and find it. Well, it's locked, but let's say you somehow unlocked it. You could put it down and then sell it and then copy it with Move It or something like that. So you could use these mods for cheating, but if you still want to play with the base game mechanics, all of these mods will work just fine. They're not going to break your game or anything like that. You can disable them at any time and your game will work just fine. So just wanted to say that, beforehand. Oh, Sam TS is right here in the chat. That's awesome. Thank you. And welcome. Hopefully I do good justice talking about your mod, good sir. And please feel free to correct me in the chat if I don't. So Move It. As I was saying, you get to see everything that your game just loaded with, even custom assets if you did that at some point. And you can filter things by all these categories. So for example, net structures are these new network-based just roads and fences and things. So for example, the amusement park fence, you could just find it here. And also, if you didn't have that, you would have to go through this menu, go here, and then find it here. Actually, that's not even the one. This is the one, right? Yeah, there we go. It's just an easier way to do things. So in my case, the way I would usually use this, by the way, I have it set it to shortcut. So if I do command space, this is a custom shortcut that I created, you just do fence and you see all of the fences, and it's so quick. The way it just pulls the data from everything that you have. I think it creates a database at the beginning of each save game, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Samsung? So it's just a pretty quick way to find things in your collection. Let's say, I don't know, rocks, and you have all of the rocks here. Pretty self-explanatory. So highly recommend this mod. Let me pause the game before it gets to nighttime, because I don't want nighttime just yet. All right. Lowering roads and adjusting curves are the trickiest for me. Can you show us how? Yeah, there's a mod that I'm gonna cover in just a second about that. The next 3 mods that I'm gonna be talking about are related to that. So Move It. Move It is the mod. Like, there's just no way I would play this game without Move It. It's just impossible. This mod is an absolute must. And this is a mod that will potentially allow you to cheat if you don't use it properly, if that makes any sense. Let me show you exactly what it does. So Move It, once you subscribe to Move It, it will give you this button right here, which you can click. And if you are on the single selection mode, you can pretty much select absolutely anything in your map. So for example, let me exit Move It for a second. This is theater, right? Let's take a look at theater for a moment. So this is, I'm using Find It to look for theater. So this is a theater. This is a unique building, if I'm not mistaken. And it costs 12,000 simoleons. I'm losing a lot of money, by the way, here. But it doesn't matter. So if I go with Move It, I can like literally just select this. See, now it's selected green. And I can, if I do Control C, I can literally copy this. So now I have a copy of this theater. If I right click and drag, I can rotate it in the same spot. Let me exit with escape. Let me copy it again, Control C. And if I just do single right clicks, it rotates in 45-degree angles, which is great. So let's say I want these two facing back to back. I could just do that. And with a click, I just put it down. Obviously, it doesn't have to be snapping to the grid or anything like that. Move It allows you to just put everything anywhere you want. So it's pretty straightforward. Don't mind the craziness that's going on this corner of the city. Obviously, copying and pasting, as far as I understand, doesn't cost anything. So I literally just created a copy of this building and didn't have to pay for it. So this is the cheaty part of Move It, but you know, only if you use it that way. The way I suggest you use it is, let's say you have this theater that you put your hard-earned money in the game and you put it down. But let's say you wanted this to be like, oh, I don't like how this is like too offset. I want to center it between these two roads. So you grab Move It and you just nudge it in place, and that's it. It's just for like fine-tuning things. Even let's say this one. This is also a building that I plopped against this road, but I want these benches to be aligned with this like segment of the road. Let me change the time of the day so you can actually see what I'm doing, and we'll talk about this mod in just a second, by the way. So you click here, click and drag, and you just nudge it in place, and that's it. You're done. Now the benches are aligned with the sidewalk in case you somehow wanted to do that. But the theater is hardly worth anything. Sure, I mean, you can grab, I don't know, how much does this thing cost? The London Eye. This one is 75,000. I mean, dude, you can just grab anything. You can put down like one of the spacey things, like all these crappy things that are here that I'll never use probably. You can just do that and copy it a billion times if you really wanted to. That's up to you. And they will work just fine. You're not just copying like the mesh or the aesthetics of the building. You're literally copying everything that's the whole asset does. Other things would Move It. So here, another good example. So you see how this terrain is kind of wonky. So you can select a building, in this case, this here. And if you use page up, you can lower or raise, or page down for lowering, actually. You can raise and lower things. If you hold shift and page up, it will go up in larger increments. And if you hold shift and page down, same thing. Now, if you use control page up, it will do it in like very tiny micro, sorry, is it alt? Yeah, it's alt. If you use alt page up, it will go faster and slower, like one at a time. You can see the trees moving, and I have another mod for the trees moving like that, but you get the idea. It's probably more noticeable in roads. So let's grab a road segment. Let's see. For example, here, let's grab this node. So Move It allows you to select segments, nodes. You can, like, for example, if you select a segment, you can just notch them this way. But talking about raising and lowering things that people were asking for, you just select the node. You can't raise or lower a segment. You have to do it with nodes or buildings or props or things like that, but definitely not segments. So if I go shift page down, you can see how the road goes down. And if I use shift page up, you can see the thing go up. What is the difference between assets, decals, and so on? Okay, so that's a good question. So assets, there's a difference between assets and mods. Mods are like pieces of software that your game runs. Assets are like things that you can put down, like visual things, like models and textures and things like that. I guess you could theoretically call the map themes assets as well, because they're like a visual treatment to the game, not a piece of software that does something in the background. So mods, think of mods as like a, you know, just like software that makes your game run a different way that it wasn't intended to. So decals and whatnot. Let me go through these lists. So next structures I already talked about. It's literally like roads, fences, everything that has nodes and can be bent and can be connected. Ploppables are elements or assets in this case that you can just grab and plop. So in this case, for example, an airport. Obviously, I can't place an airport here, at least not yet. There's another mod for that coming up. Or this Amsterdam palace. Obviously, I can't put this down either because it's the terrain is too hilly, but you get the point. These are all ploppables. Growables are the buildings that spawn when you zone. So let's actually see if this works. This actually may work. I never zone, just so you know. All the videos that I put out, I play like highly modded City Skylines in case you just randomly join on this thing and you don't know what I'm talking about. So let me just zone a little bit of this and now start the simulation. Let me actually pause the day-night cycle. Again, I'll talk about that in just a second. So hopefully things should grow now. Well, I guess I have a lot of demand for industry, so this may not grow. Let's actually zone some industry here, because why not? We're just destroying the city anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So these are all growables, meaning they just grow when you zone. And find it if you have the right mods. In this case, I have a mod that allows me to do that I'm not going to cover because it's not an essential mod. But you could theoretically grab one of these growables and just put it down wherever you want. This is most likely going to despawn because it's commercial and it's sitting on a residential. If you don't have the right mods that allow you to prevent that from happening. In this case, I do, so that's why it's not going to despawn. But if you do that, it will most likely despawn. Downside of zoning. The downside of zoning is that you can't control, like, let's say you zone everything and you like nudged buildings. Let's say, oh, I love this factory. This looks great. I'm going to nudge it with move it. See, I just clicked on it and I'm like literally moving the thing. If you move it too far away from the zone, it will despawn unless you have the mods that prevent that from happening. But the problem is, let's say you put a lot of effort into having this look this way, and then, like, I don't know, a fire. Well, yeah, fires will destroy everything no matter what. But let's say the neighborhood changes, the land value changes, or things like that, and then you're like, oh man, I put a lot of effort into having this building look this way, and it just suddenly despawn. You can have a lot of mods that prevent that from happening too, but I rather just, go and place buildings manually. So for example, all of these European buildings are growables, meaning they should spawn when you zone, except if I move them, you'll see that there's no zoning here. All these tiles are empty. They're not painting in any color. I can literally just turn this into industrial if I wanted to. And if you go into the growables menu of find it, you can find these buildings. Just place them manually, and if you have the right mods, these buildings will just stay there forever. They're not going to move, and you're going to have a beautiful city. But again, it really goes against the base game mechanics. So if you're playing for those, then this is not recommended. That's mostly why I don't zone, and I just manually place everything. Because again, I'm not an insane person. I'm totally normal. Oh, thank you, Earthris, for the tips. Much appreciated. Let's continue the list. So props are literally just props that you can put down. They don't really do anything. They don't have any game mechanics attached to them. They're just things that look pretty. Some props, there's like hit areas around roads and things like that where you can't just place things wherever you want. Again, obviously there's mods that allow you to do whatever you want, but we're not covering those in this case. So you can just put down all these things. Most of these are from the Park Life expansion, but I mean, these have been around since vanilla. So for example, let's take a look at props. Let's say you have this nice, beautiful brick factory, and you want to put this ugly ass billboard right in front of it. So you have the prop selected, you put it down, and then you go with move it, which you can summon with the letter M, by the way, which is much faster than clicking on this thing. You select it, and then you go shift page up, and you can like raise. Okay, no, never mind. I don't have the mod that allows me to do that. I'm so used to having a billion mods that if you had prop snapping, which is another mod that I'm not going to be covering this list, you could raise this prop and put it at the top of the building. That's what I was trying to do. In this case, all you can do is just move it and put it right against the door, and now no one can really get in. I mean, they can. The building still works, but now there's a prop blocking the thing. Okay, decals. I don't think I have any decals. I do have decals. The game has some decals. So decals are like 2D textures that you can apply to different surfaces. Some decals will follow the terrain and everything else. Like these are just decals. Imagine just putting stickers on your city to like give it a more, destroyed sort of texture in this case. Something like that. You can create a path of tiles. If you don't like how these decals go, you can go back to move it and just select it and do this. Pretty straightforward. Another feature of move it that I haven't covered yet, and by the way, I think I'm done. Yeah, and trees are trees. Trees behave differently. Sorry, I keep going all over the place. I wasn't expecting to have that question now, but I guess I'm answering that. Trees are different than the rest of the props, for example, because they have this like sway movement. I don't know if you can see it. Simulation is pretty slow right now, but there's some movement to these things. They sway back and forth as time passes, and they have like a lower resolution version when you zoom out. It's not super visible here, actually. It might be. Look at these trees over here. As I get close, you see how it just changed the resolution, and now they're like all pretty, quote unquote pretty. So yeah, those are trees. Hopefully that was quite an explanation of how that worked. Now, going back to Move It, another option that Move It has that's pretty powerful and recently has gotten much better is the marquee selection. So this is, imagine you're using Photoshop when you're using this. You can click and drag, and it will create a box around everything that's selectable. You'll have all these selected things. I can literally just click now and drag this whole bunch of stuff, which obviously you wouldn't do it like this. I'm just showing you how this works. But all of these checkboxes are the same that were in Find It. They're pretty much all the same categories. So for example, let's say I just want these decals to be gone from here or move them somewhere else. I'm gonna uncheck everything but decals. And now if I drag a box around everything, I can only move the decals. If I don't like the decals, because, you know, let's face it, these are pretty nasty, I can just go into the bulldozer and delete that. This bulldozer works pretty much exactly the same as the game bulldozer. In fact, let me undo that. If I go with the bulldozer, I can just click that and that will go away. The benefit of using Move It to delete things, let me show you that again, I can bulldoze, is that if I do Control Z, I can retrieve my changes. Where if I do this with the base bulldozer, if I do Command C, nothing really happens. So, you know. Let's see. Try double click for filters. I don't know what that means. Nothing happens when I double click. I don't know if you were talking about something else. In any case, say for example with notes, let's say I want to only affect the nodes here, so I can just move these two nodes. I mean, you can even make a much larger selection. You can like literally select all of that. And obviously it's gonna glitch the crap out of my game, but it works. And then you can undo with Control Z and everything will go back in place. Now this is a new feature, or a relatively new feature, align heights. So for example, let's say we have this road here, and I want this road, for whatever reason, I want this road to match the height of this road, or at least this. For example, okay, let me give you this idea. So I have a node here and a node here, and I have this sort of pedestrian road kind of going downhill. So I'm gonna do a marquee selection. Let's select these two nodes for the pedestrian path and this road, and then I'm gonna select this upper node and the upper part of this pedestrian path. So if I click on Align Heights, now you'll see that the selection box is white, which means that I can just pick anything that's node related in this case, and it will align all of these nodes to that one thing. So in this case, I want this road to sort of match the height of this one. So I'm going to click here, and boom, everything is now perfectly flat. At least all these nodes are exactly at the same height. I don't know if you would like to have this super steep thing here, but at least these things are level. This is particularly useful if you have like a bunch of props that are all like sort of floating at different heights and things like that. It's just a nicer way or a faster way to get everything leveled out much easier. I use this feature all the freaking time. Highly recommended. By the way, the copy feature that I was telling you about, you can select a building. There's also a shortcut, copy. There you go. Pretty straightforward. I use just Control Z. It's much faster that way. Now, last two things of Move It. Actually, let me talk about these two things because these are important. Let's say you have, so I have this building here, right? So I copy this building. I have this building selected. I can put it wherever I want. And by default, this option that says follow terrain is turned on. So because of that, the building, you're going to see that it just goes up and down as I move across this hill. I don't know if you can see the terrain difference, but if I put it here, now this building is higher than this one because the terrain is higher. Let me delete that. Now, let's see what happens if I turn this off. So if I click this building, now it's just going to clip through the ground because it's retaining the height of whatever the original copy was. This is super powerful, trust me. This is amazing. And I usually have this featured off all the time. I rarely want things to follow the terrain. I do from time to time, of course, but for the most part, I don't. So if I put this building here, obviously it's just going to carve a hole in the ground because, you know, this wasn't really meant to do that. But I can also go up and bring it down with shift page up so that it's faster. And if you go too far up, the game starts creating this weird sort of concrete pylons underneath. At least it does for some buildings. But let's say I'm like, oh, dude, this doesn't look great. I really want this to be flush against this avenue. Great. So I can go align heights, click on the avenue, and boom. Now this building is exactly at the same level as this intersection right here. So I can then move it back in place, and I'm done. And this last option is toggle snapping. This one I don't use that often. I haven't quite mastered it. I think it's a pretty powerful thing, but it's hard for me to really grasp how it works. But basically it just snaps to angles. You can see this line that sort of comes as I try to move it. Like if I'm moving sideways, it tries to like force it against this center axis. And as I go through different angles, it tries to like force it against this axis, for example. I suggest you play with it. I can't give you any like specifics on how this works exactly, or which uses you could use it for. I'll let you figure that out, but know that it exists. Hang on, let me see what chat is saying. Blah, blah, blah. Will this live stream be available as a video? Can be watched, studied later? Yes, this is going to be a tutorial that's going to be on my channel that you can later watch. There was another question that was important and I kind of lost it. Can I use Move It to stack decals? Good question. Yes, I mean, so decals are tricky. It really depends on the decal, not so much in Move It. So in this case, one common thing with decals is that they will usually like glitch because they're all on the same axis. So they have what they call Z fighting. So you're gonna see flickering things. I don't know if I can actually lower this decal. Can I? No. Well, I don't have the mod that allows me to do that. So Move It allows you to move things up and down, especially props and decals, but you need prop snapping so that things actually change Z axis when you bring them up. So that's the only way you can stack decals, and there's limitations. There's all kinds of limitations. So I encourage you to like put a bunch of decals and try moving them in different ways. Combine Move It with prop snapping. That will be my suggestion to you, sir. Yeah, you can undo absolutely everything with Move It, by the way, which is amazing. So last two things. These are like pro things that you probably never use, but I still want you to know them because especially if you're doing collaborations with other people, these or if you like, let's say you build this whole neighborhood and you don't. Like you accidentally deleted it or it caught on fire and you're like, oh man, I put a lot of effort into doing this beautiful neighborhood here. So if you followed my advice at the beginning of this live stream, you could, if you had like multiple save games, multiple versions of your save games, you can go back to an older save game and let's enable absolutely everything. Or let's say the trees are still there because they didn't, not the trees, the roads are still there because they didn't catch on fire. But the trees are gone, the buildings are gone, everything is gone by the roads. So what I'm going to do is uncheck nodes and segments, which will prevent me from selecting the roads. But I want props, buildings, and decals. So imagine this is an older save where I wanted, where this part of the city was working. I can literally just do this. It selects all the trees, the buildings, everything. And then what I can do is export, and I can put a name. I can call it before burned. And this actually, there's a bug in this mod. And Sam, I don't know if you took note of this, but so burn pre-burn hood. Let's call it that. You have to press enter to get it to work. If you click export, it doesn't work. So you have this selection here, and it literally copied all of those things into an XML file in your CDs folder. So if I go, let's say you reload your save game where everything is burnt. In fact, I can just do this to show you. Delete. Boom. So now this neighborhood is gone. Imagine this is your neighborhood that caught on fire. Everything is missing, blah, blah, blah. So you go back and move it. You go import this time, and you can just click on this button, and now you can literally copy buildings across save games. Imagine I just quit the game, I closed everything, and I reloaded it. Then the last thing you have to do is just like put it back in place, make sure that it matches. Let's say, oh, it didn't quite match. So if you, before you do your right click to unselect this, you can like literally just go back in, zoom in, make sure that everything matches just like so, and boom, there you have it. Brand new building that just got all burned. Now it's alive again. So, that's a little bit cheaty, but you could do that if you really wanted to. Let's see. There are questions about Nidal. I can answer them at the end of the live stream. I wanna focus on the tutorial side of things. Hope you don't mind, because then this is going to be recorded and people are going to be ideally watching this many years in the future, and it will be totally random. If I talk about my current projects, we'll probably be long dead by then. Skiveth copied a ultra detailed city from a broken save to a new one. This feature is insane. Yeah, I know. Wow, a whole city. I don't think I've ever copied anything that big, but man, just being able to copy things across saves, it's just amazing. We did that in FPS recently, where we lost a lot of the flowers and the gardens and things that were sitting in between the terminals, and I just used this feature to bring them back to life from a way older save. I think it was Flux's fault. Actually, I think it was Jay's fault. It was definitely not my fault. All right, so that's Move It in a nutshell. If you combine all these things, there's a lot more that you can do. I think there's quite the literature in the Move It page. That's right here. This is everything that it does, and the keybinds and everything. So I suggest you go back and take a look at it. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of tutorials that people have been making. So just go, if you want to go deeper, this is one way to do it. Next on the list, Find Road Anarchy and Find Road Tools. Sam, if you're still in the chat, can you... all these mods are by Sam, by the way. This is why I'm asking him in the chat. If I'm not mistaken, I think these two mods are sort of combined. But I don't know if you need to subscribe to both of them. They're all part of the same UI now. I know that. But I've been using these mods for so long that I can't even remember which mod is which. Like, I'm so used to using them. So I'm going to cover Find Road Tool and Find Road Anarchy all in one go, if that's okay with you. So let's get out of the city for a second here. Let's go over here. We have a nice hill. Let me show you what we have. We have some beautiful windmills. Can you believe this is a vanilla city? I mean, I know if you zoom in, there's things that don't look amazing, but you can create some cool stuff in vanilla. Now, this is not me saying I'm going to start a series in vanilla, but Okay, how long have we been streaming for? I would like to know. We've been streaming for an hour. Wow, this is going to be a long tutorial. We're only like on the third mod. Okay, whatever. Find Road Tools. So this is the button that it creates when you have it. And if you have Anarchy, I think it will add this option as well. So by default, this is what it looks like. I haven't touched any of these things. This is another mod that we'll cover in just a second. So if you don't have this, just give me a second here. We'll get to everything later. So by default, this is how it works. This is the way you put down roads in City Skylines if you didn't have any mods. So you just click and drag, and you come up with a road like this, which is okay. It's kind of bumpy. I don't know if you can actually see that there's like some like weird inconsistencies. There's not a straight line in between these 2 points. Just tries to terraform the best way it can using whatever algorithm it's behind this thing. Ooh, Neguchi, how's it going, sir? Okay, so first things first. Let's say you want to go through, there's like a little hill here between these windmills and this other thing. So I can just go like this, and in general, you would just go page up in City Skylines to get your bridge. So you can do something like this. And then, well, I'm right next to this windmill here, which is kind of unfortunate, but let me illustrate a thing that Anarchy does. So whenever you have these like collision detection boxes things that don't allow you to do things, one thing that you can do is toggle road anarchy. If I do that, now suddenly I can just place this road wherever I want. So in this case, I want it right through this windmill, and there you go. Now I have this road sitting in between this windmill. I can go in and, for example, go back to the single selection mode and move it, and see this segment that I have here. I can click and bend it. So now I can just go around this windmill if I really wanted to. I'm making like really ugly things here, but I just wanted to sort of illustrate how powerful combining everything is. This is just going to be insane. If you like start playing with this, you're just going to be super mind blown. You can even, by the way, I forgot to mention, with Move It, you can actually grab the pillars and just move them sideways. Sometimes this is a bit glitchy. They may come back to the original spot, but if you don't touch any of this area, it might stay like that. You can even like copy it, create another copy. Let's say you want a thicker pillar. So now it's like really supported. In fact, I can even go here to make it a bit more realistic, create another copy, and let's just put it here so that this actually makes sense. I'm gonna go shift page up, and now I just created a pillar so that my ugly curve, makes some sense. All right, so Anarchy, we cover that. You can go through everything. One thing you can't go through, at least not by default, is let's say you have these, let's say you have a bike path. Let me go back all the way to 0 meters. So you have this bike path here. And if you put down a road, I'm gonna turn on Anarchy even. You probably saw this a lot, where as you're trying to drag things or put buildings to things, it will delete your pedestrian roads or your bike path. And this is so annoying. And this is something that I recently learned, by the way. I don't know why I just learned about this. I don't know if it was an old feature or new, but this was super annoying, especially if you're using like those concrete brushes. Those are also going to be like despawning when you do this. The way you solve this is by toggling a road collision, in this case, off. So I can just do that. And now, as you can see, the bike path is still going underneath my road. In fact, you can see the segments here, but at least it didn't despawn. So if I really wanted to, make this not go like this, I can just create a copy of this, delete this segment, bring this back over here, and then grab this extra node and move it like this. And now at least it doesn't go across all the way. So people riding bikes will have to, go on the sidewalk. Something like that. But this option, super useful. I wish this was on by default because I hate road collisions so much. By the way, if you do Control A, that's the shortcut for Anarchy, and it also changes how chirpy it looks like, just so you know. Bending, this is also an option that I wish was off by default. If you have, let's see. Well, for example, here, this is another interesting thing. It says slope too steep. If I turn on Anarchy, that goes away. That's the powerfulness of Anarchy. How can I trigger the bending mode? I'll get to the bending mode in a second because I can't remember exactly which conditions you need to create in order to do that. By the way, I didn't rehearse this tutorial or anything. I'm just going as I go. These options, let's talk about these options, the modes. So first, you notice that if I was trying to do this it kind of creates a bridge between these 2 points, which, you know, it doesn't make sense. Like, I'm on the ground, but the game thinks that there's a big chasm between these 2 things, so it wants to create a bridge, which is fine, but I don't really want that. So in order to override what the game thinks I want to do, you can go for the first mode, which is force the ground level. So if I turn that on, I'm no longer using the vanilla normal creation of roads mod, and now everything sticks to the ground. Let's say the opposite. Let's say I'm going back to normal. Let me actually go down to 0. So I'm creating this road right on the level terrain. But let's say I do want a bridge here because I want to terraform underneath after. So I can go into elevated, and by default, you just see that I'm getting a bridge even if I'm at 0 meters level. You can also go into upgrade road and just change what I already built. So now we have this. And if we go back to normal mode, again, let's say select this. It just created that ugly bridge there. Annoying. If I do this, you'll see that it's just a dirt road. Sorry, a ground level. And I can do that. You can basically upgrade segments to give it the new styles. In this case, let's say I just want the bridge here. I can go in, upgrade this, and now everything is conforming to the ground except this stretch right here that I can go, for example, well, do this. There we go. And now I have a nice little bridge. And this, by the way, is also a mod that we're going to be talking about in just a second. So that's pretty powerful. There's other things that you can do too. There's the bridge mode. So there's the elevated mode, and then there's the bridge mode. There's differences between those, and those are more visible, or at least more clear, if you're putting down train tracks. So let me put a whole bunch of train tracks here. And we're forcing ground level here. Let's go and upgrade these to elevated. So these ones will get you, if I go shift page up with move it, you can see what it looks like. And if I force bridge, this is what it looks like. If I can, oh, you need to exit move it before you can do this. Just so you know, I do that all the time. And you actually need to go to to train. So the bridge version of the train has these the metal structure around it. That's the quality of bridges and trains. I can also go shift up with move it and show you what this looks like. The only way, so roads don't have a bridge. Oh, actually they do have a bridge. No, never mind, they don't. They just look exactly the same as the elevated roads. But if you go into avenues do have bridges, as seen here. You can see what this looks like. There's other types of avenues that have like the suspension bridge. If I raise this up enough, which one is the one that had? There was one. Oh, I think it's these ones. There we go. So you have the suspension bridge. I mean, obviously this is terrible, but you get the point. If you have a segment like this, you can obviously just upgrade it to elevated, like so. And you can even just force ground on this, and it will create this like wall of dirt. It's kind of amazing. So, you know, all kinds of possibilities. Strict, when you're placing buildings and the ground isn't level, how do you level the ground with the building on it? Well, I'll talk about that in just a second when I go over the landscaping tools. But basically what you want is just the level terrain feature. So let's say I want this to be the level. You right click here. It will set the terrain height to whatever that value was. Just by clicking, you have a flat surface. And if you had a building here, it will just go up and down with the terrain automatically. You wouldn't have to really do anything. And if not, you could just raise it up with move it, like I showed you at the beginning of this live stream. By the way, if you're just joining this, I'm doing like a long tutorial of my picks for basic mods. You can rewind this live stream on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube, not so much on Twitch, unfortunately. But it's going to be later posted on my channel, so you can come back to this, and I will have timestamps in the description that you can just click to jump through the different topics that I'm going to be covering, because I've been streaming already for over an hour, and I'm like halfway through the list of mods. Oh man, I'm so glad I did this instead of doing a video, because I actually started recording a video of this, but it was like so much work. I really didn't have the time, even though I would have loved to be a bit more optimized with how I go about this. And by the way, at the end of the last stream, I'm gonna leave a few minutes to answer questions in general and show you things. So if for whatever reason I missed your question, just wait until the end or use super chat. Okay. Find road tools. That's pretty much it. So the other option is toggle snapping, which is similar to what I was showing you before with Move It. It will snap to things. By the way, all these like details and information is part of a different mod that I'm going to talk about in just a second. But I have everything enabled, so I can't just disable things to show you. Bending mode, it's a thing that creates like a curve. I think this is a good example, right? Like if I do something like this, I think this is somewhat bent. Anyways, it's sometimes when you connect two roads that are like almost like really close to one another, it will try to create, there we go. So you can see there's like a curve as I'm trying to connect these two roads. But if I turn this off, it will create a straight line. Let me show you what the other one like looks like. If I can, because it's kind of, now it happens all the time, like this one. You see how is this a curve? And if I turn this off, you see it's a straight line. By the way, Anarchy also allows you to do these kinds of super sharp turns. If I did something like that, you see like it tells me, oh, space already occupied, slope too steep. Not if I turn on Anarchy. There you go. Now we have these things. Obviously, you can glitch the crap out of your roads. Like these roads will still work, but it just doesn't look great. So one thing you can do in this case is just select that node and use Move It to bring it down. So just something to keep in mind. Let's see. Yes, the last feature of Road Anarchy, and this is to me particularly, is the most amazing feature. Straight slope. So I'm gonna turn off bending, collision, snapping. I'm gonna turn it off. Anarchy's on. Basically, this is how I usually have it all set the whole time. Occasionally, I will switch to these modes if the terrain needs to be, adjusted for whatever reason. But for the most part, this. And by the way, tunnel, same thing. Let me just quickly show you. You can just do that, and it will create a tunnel. Pretty straightforward. You can later, obviously, just go and terraform over it. Beautiful. But yeah, this feature, straight slope, is the best. So here, if you look at this road that we put down here, do you see how it's kind of bumpy? I don't know if you can see that, but it's all like kind of squiggly and bumpy. Let's see if we can fix that. Let's turn on straight slope. This is the node. Yeah, this is the node. Okay, so we're gonna go here and do that. Now compare this. Well, okay. There's a bug with this feature, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Yeah, this is not working. Samsung, I think I mentioned this before, but you might have to be on forced ground level, maybe? I don't think so, but why is this not working? Like, it shouldn't be all bumpy like this. It should be like literally a super straight slope. Okay, this one worked. There's a few minor thingies there, but if I turn this off, let me show you how this looks. This is so embarrassing now. You can actually see the difference here. So look at the road above and this one below that I just put without it. You see how it just like goes down sharply, and then it just like, it's just a more straight slope as it goes down to the second one, but it doesn't just keep a straight line between the 2 points. Probably this is not a great example, but if you're doing, for example, switchbacks, let's say on this hill, you can do something like this. If I'm using straight slope, I just get much more smoother curves. Where if I turn this off, let's see if we can actually do this. You can see how this one like goes up and down all the time. This one is much more gentle and just basically creates a perfect line, or as perfect as possible given the limitations of the game, between the 2 points as you're trying to create these roads. So again, with any of these things, and like I said at the beginning of this live stream, you have to disable enable everything. You gotta disable enable every time you use straight. Yeah, I think there's a bug here. You have to like click and reset, unfortunately, or use Shift S, by the way. This didn't used to be the case. Whenever it was like toggled, it would work, but now you have to like check and uncheck because it gets all messed up. I think I mentioned that to Samsung on a previous video before, but just try it. Like I was saying, just try it. Try things. Don't, do this in your city, or at least go to like a corner of your city and do it that way. It's much easier to get good results. Okay, that was Find Road Tools and Find Road Anarchy. Let's see what else is on the list. Let me close all these tabs. Radioactive, Desert, and more. This one it's a simple one, and it's mandatory, I would say. Let me show you what this does. So let's go. This is the industrial area of my city, and already the mod is enabled, but let me show you what happens if I disable it. So no radioactive, desert, and more. You have all these options, but I'm gonna uncheck this first two. Click OK. Well, there we go. All right. So now there's purple ground, and then there's this cloud of smoke that, sure, it shows you where the pollution is. Like, if you really care about all these things, you might need to turn this on. Not that it's not disabling pollution or anything like that. Pollution still exists. Everything is still kind of nasty. This cloud of smoke basically tells you where people can live, so it is kind of useful. And I get it why the game developers made it this way. The problem is, aesthetically, this is just awful. Primarily this terrain here that looks purple. Let me show you. Let me turn on this one. Actually, let me turn on the smoke. Is that the actual thing? Smoke suddenly appear. I think turning to these like actually gets rid of everything. Yeah, there we go. Unfortunately, I can't show you the purple without turning off without keeping the smoke on. But it just gets rid of that. Just play the game with this. Use these charts if you really want to see where pollution is. I mean, it's clearly here. And you can assume that when you put down industrial buildings, it's going to create some pollution, unless you put down like the green buildings for that. Yeah, don't mind that the whole city is just full of crime and abandoned buildings. I really don't care. This is an old save anyways. I'm just using this to illustrate things. Yeah, that mod, if you really want to give it a bit more aesthetically pleasing looking industrial areas, you just turn off these two things. You can also turn off like fertile areas and ores and oils and forest and even burned areas. So whenever something catches on fire, I have a few mods that are preventing that from happening in this particular save. That are not essential mods, because that's part of that's basically cheating, because if you're turning off fires, you're basically breaking the basic game mechanics, which I really don't care about, but a lot of people I know do. So yeah. All right. So that was no radioactive. The no radioactive mod. Is that the name? Let me bring it back up. No Radioactive, Desert, and More by Bloody Penguin, also an amazing mod creator who I actually met in person. So, super awesome dude. Ultimate EyeCandy and Relight. So these two sort of go hand by hand. One is by Ronix, also a great asset creator, and Judas, who's created a pretty set of powerful mods that are pretty mandatory in my perspective. So these ones are the mods that allow you to have your city looking a little bit nicer. Let's talk about first Ultimate EyeCandy. So Ultimate EyeCandy will bring up this this menu right here, this cloud and sun. Let me actually, the music stopped. Let me see if I can put it back up. There we go. Great. So it will bring up this menu right here. This has a whole bunch of controls. The most important ones, in my opinion, are the day-night cycle speed and the time of the day. By default, every time you load your game, it's going to be set to normal. So now the sun is going to slowly start setting. You can actually see the shadows as they go through this road over here. And you can see the time of the day that it's actually going by at a normal speed. If I set it to 4 times, you can actually see how this starts going faster. It's not going to affect the speed of the vehicles or anything like that. It's just going to change the speed of the sun. You can actually see it being set down there, and suddenly is nighttime, which is actually pretty eye-candy if you're doing cinematics. But usually I just want to build in daytime just because it's easier. And with this slider, you can basically set it to whatever time of the day you want. So you can just move it, any direction that you want. It is a little bit glitchy. Like you see how it just like bounces. That's, it's a minor annoyance, but it works fine. It totally, there's no bugs or anything like that. It's just the way, I think it's like forcing the game into going into a specific time of the day. That's what. Latitude and longitude will allow you to change the position of the sun. So let me go back to the sunset that I was just showing you, like that, and you can see how I can like move the sun in different spots. So if you want to build a realistic city that's specifically at a location in the world, and you want the sunset to be at the same time that it is at 7 p.m. and 20 minutes, then this is how you would change it. You can go on Google Maps, get your latitude and longitude, and that will be that. Global light intensity, these are let me go back into noon so you can see what they do. I usually try to keep them centered, so at 5 and 1. And then I have other mods that allow me to like set it to a different spot. You can really blow up the light intensity. This is pretty straightforward. You just move these sliders and see what happens. You can create some interesting contrast by playing with these, but I try to keep these centered, and then we'll use Relight to adjust things a different way. Then there's the weather tab, which allows you to get some weather. So I can turn this on. So now weather is on, and I can just change the rain intensity. So now it's raining. I can even set it to full rain, and it's super crazy. This is probably not translating very well in in the stream. Let me go to speed number 1 in terms of simulation. I can also turn on rain motion blur, so you can see. I don't know if this will translate on the stream because of the encoding of the video, but you'll get some interesting things. You can see the thunderstorm going in. You can also change the fog. So I'm gonna add a ton of fog here. And now it's just a miserable day in just 2 clicks. And then I can just turn this off and everything goes back to normal. I can bring the fog up and down. You can see there's like even clouds that are starting to appear. You can toggle all these things to like take screenshots or things like that if you really wanted to. By default, I just have it off. I'm just trying to catch up with the chat. Ultimate Candy has disabled the first 2 options. I don't know what that means. Do you have Daylight Classic or any conflicting mods? Daylight Classic works with the mods that I have. It's definitely not a basic mod. I actually never really used Daylight Classic. It just gives it a different look and aesthetic, but I think Relight does a better job at that, and LUTs. Let's actually talk about LUTs. This is important. So LUTs, in this case, we're using the Relight's LUTs. LUTs are like, it stands for lookup tables. I have a whole tutorial on how to create customs of these. If you have like Instagram and you just follow a whole bunch of people that have like always the same kind of look and feel on their photos and things like that, or on their videos, it's basically a way to do color correction. And by default, the game has 4 different LUTs. The temperate, which I can show you what it looks like. the Boreal, the Tropical, and the European one. And they're pretty saturated. They look a little bit cartoonish. I'm not a huge fan of this. So in general, I'll just use, well, lately I've been using a lot of Relights by Ronix that are like pretty much on point. But you can see how it just like changes the mood of everything. It's like adding like Instagram filters. Think about it that way to your city. In this case, I'm using average. I think it's like pretty neutral. Some of these buildings, like the textures are already pretty saturated and cartoony, so that's why I don't usually play with vanilla assets. But at least you can bring them down to a style and a look and feel that's a little bit more realistic than by default, if that makes any sense. Day-night cycle doesn't work for me, and time of day. You probably have another mod that's conflicting with it. This works perfectly fine, but you probably have some older mod that doesn't work. I think if you go into the description of Ultimate EyeCandy, there's a list of things that are incompatible with it. So if there's another mod trying to change the time of the day, that's probably what's happening to you. Again, if you're going to play with my mods and things like that, everything that I do, just unsubscribe to everything like I showed at the beginning of this live stream, and just get the mods that I'm showing you, and it will work just fine. If not, just start disabling mods one by one until you figure out which one is the one that's messing your stuff up. Does day-night cycle work without UEC? What is UEC? I don't know what UEC is. Oh, we have Flux in the chat? Hey, Flux. The speed slider only controls the speed of day-night cycle, not the speed of the game simulation. Yeah, there's another mod that's called Speed Slider that does control the simulation, and it literally just slows down everything. So that, but that doesn't stop this from working. It just makes it work really slowly if you have it set to like a very small percentage. I've been using that mod a lot. I haven't given enough credit, but that was an idea from Press, by the way. I was going to mention this in the next episode of Nidal. I've been using the speed slider to slow down the simulation to record time lapses, so they look a bit more smooth when you're watching them at a faster speed. So, tip of the hat to Press for that idea. Okay, so LUTs. We covered LUTs and presets. Basically, once you set all of these variables and LUTs to whatever you want, you can just save all of those. So as you can see here, I have a list of every single project that I've done. Some obviously won't work. Like let's say I apply the Sinu preset to this. It's just gonna look terrible because obviously there's a lot more things that are changing or made Sinu look the way it did. This city doesn't. In this case, I'm just gonna keep, well, I need to bring this back to where it was. That's about it. Just somewhat in the middle. So yeah, so you can like save these and use them in other cities. You can also, all these are created on the local file, so you can just simply go and copy it, and if you needed to backup or something like that. So yeah. By the way, once again, because there's probably a lot of new people, fix this crime. My eyes. All right, you want me to fix the crimes? Here, I'll put 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. That should take care of everything, right? Let's see what happens. Oh, you know why there's crime? I know why there's crime. This is not gonna help. There's crime because there's another mod that I need to show you that disabled the thing about things. So here, let me go in this menu. Is this better? Is this better for your eyes? Okay, so let's see. Relight. Yeah, so Relight, I'm gonna go in the water so you don't have to see all those notifications. Relight is summoned with Alt Shift L, and it might be a bit too tiny for the screen. Let me actually change the resolution here for a second so you can actually see it. Did this made it? Oh no, now it's out of the screen. God damn it. Let's go back to 4K for a second. Yes, bring it up there. There we go. Great. So now you can see things. So Relight allows you to customize. Look how bad this looks. It's terrible. Relight allows you to change a whole bunch of different things. I'm not going to go through all these ones, but just know that you have brightness controls. Let me actually go here. And maybe see if I can get more contrast. There we go. That's much better. This UI is kind of not great, unfortunately. It doesn't scale or anything like that, but it works. And you only have to like change this once. So you can see I'm like changing the color temperature. I can make things look a little bit colder or warmer, or change the tint, just offset how everything looks. It's basically, if you ever photoshopped anything at all, like using the just the saturation controls or levels or things like that, this is what it allows you to do. You can change the temperature of the sky even. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can change, or you can reset it all, and this is what things look like by default. Obviously, I have a whole bunch of presets here, the same way I have them with Ultimate EyeCandy. Also, you can turn on or off the sky tone mapping. I mean, honestly, I just encourage you to just play with these features until you get your desired look. But this is a super powerful tool that paired together with all these slots, it's just going to create some amazing results in your city. So highly recommend it. Let me go back to 4K here. Click OK. There we go. Now we have some nice resolution of things. Let's go back to the mod list. So next on the list, extra landscaping tools. Also pretty straightforward. If you ever use the map editor, extra landscaping tools will give you this set of brushes and options. So let me go, let's say here. You can change the brush size. By default, if you don't have this mod, vanilla cities will give you like a thing like this 3 like circles, if I'm not mistaken. I've never used these in games, so I don't even remember. It's been years since I played vanilla like this, so I don't even remember what this looked like if you don't have the mod. But basically, all of these brushes are what you would see if you're in the map editor. So if you're terraforming things in the map editor, you'll get all these options. I don't know why they didn't include them in-game, so I suggest you get this mod. It will be a little bit cheaty because you don't have the soil availability. There's like limitations now for terraforming in-game. But just know that you can just terraform the crap out of everything. I have a tutorial on this. It's called Realistic Slopes or something like that. You can look that up if you want more details. But I could just bring down the brush strength. Again, if you ever use Photoshop or anything like that, it's just pretty straightforward. Just clicking and dragging, by the way, creating all these kinds of mountains. I can soften the terrain. I can use like these weird filters. You'll probably never use these, but they exist. So you can, here, let me create a star-shaped mountain. So now we have that, which is not great, but you know, you can fill it with water if you wanted to. Also, you can undo using Control Z. Just undo all of that. Let me try to smooth these out. Hang on, I need to get a glass of water. Can you give me just a second here? Because I need to, like, my throat is like going, it's just disappearing. Give me just a second, I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm still getting used to the new OBS that I'm using that has the studio version, which is interesting. Okay, so yeah, brush landscaping tools gives you all these things, and then if you want to put trees, you still have the same options, so you can just put things like this. I don't really want to go into a lot of detail because I think it's pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. If you change the strength, of course, you're going to have trees that are closer to one another. And the same if you right-click, you just disappear. Again, play with these things. You'll get some interesting results. Next on the list, where are we? I keep alt-tabbing, but that's not what I want. Okay, so no border limit camera. So by default, this is the area that you're given when in this case I just bought this land. But you really, usually when you're in game, you really can't go any further than this city limits. So, and it's kind of annoying because sometimes you want to see your city and take screenshots from farther away. So with the no border city limit camera, you can just go to like the edge of the map and just look around, basically. You can even go all the way up here, right up until up against the edge of the map, as these cars are driving away from the main city. And yeah, that's it. That's all it does. It just allows you to go further than the limits that you purchase, which I think it's pretty awesome. Can you shoot an image of this map and send it to me? This map is in the workshop, so you can get it from there. It's called Sound of Lean. And if you're watching this as a recorded thing, there's going to be links in the description to this map and to this city that I built, the videos of me building the city. And the good version of the city, not this like totally burnt version of the city or full of crime. Okay, next on the list. We're actually going faster now. Okay, so advanced vehicle options. This one also by Samsam. So this is the reason why there's so much crime in this city. And I'll explain why. So let's go over here. The reason why there isn't, or there is so much crime, is because this mod allows you to change the vehicles that spawn and they don't spawn. And since I play pretty heavily modded City Skylines, I just disable the stuff that I don't like. There's a lot of vanilla cars that are really ugly. For example, let me show you. Well, for example, this one. This plane is just terrible. Bicycle Housen makes way better planes that I highly recommend. They're like optimized and everything. And in fact, they're even more optimized than this vanilla asset. So it will be even better if you use his planes than these vanilla ones. So this mod allows you to control everything for every single vehicle that spawns and does things in the city. So in this case, I just went ahead and unchecked the option to allow this vehicle to spawn. So now this plane will never spawn in my city at all. You can also remove them driving and whatnot. So for example, here, let me pause the game. Actually, here. So we have these sightseeing bus tours. These are from Park Life, if I'm not mistaken. So you can actually see it here. I can change a whole bunch of things. I can change how fast they accelerate, how fast they brake, what the maximum speed is, color variations even. I don't know if, yeah, you can actually change the colors here because these are, you can alter the colors in based on the line in the game. But some cars, like regular civilian cars, you can actually change the colors so they don't spawn in weird colors. And if I uncheck allow this vehicle to spawn, then these buses are not going to spawn at all, which is what's happening with the police. There's no police cars because I disable them because the default police car is not super great. So I just have it set to off. And if there were any driving, look, I can just turn them on. And if I go to a police station, you'll probably see, let me pause this thing. Where's the police station here? I don't even know. I think there was one somewhere here. Let's actually go find it with this thing. Police station, here it is. So now that I just enable that, you can see the first one departing there, but you're probably going to see a lot more going and taking, just fixing all the crime problems that are there just by setting this on. Now I allow them to work there. I can also, if now they're driving or parked, I can just simply click this and it will remove them completely. But new ones will spawn, probably. There you go. So you can keep doing this all over and over and over again if you really wanted to. It's pretty fun. In this case, I don't want these police cars to ever spawn because they're not ugly. They're pretty ugly, sorry. So I'll just get some from the workshop. And that's it. They're all categorized, by the way, so you can just filter it by anything you want. Like cargo ships. You don't like this default cargo ships as I do, so you can just tell them not to spawn and get custom ones from the workshop. Pretty powerful mod. What is the unit used by acceleration and deceleration? They're asking Samsung these questions. Buses take the color of the line. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say before. Sorry, I didn't make myself super clear. Is there sightseeing? Where's the sightseeing? Oh, here it is. Yeah, so they're red because this line is red. But if I change this to, I don't know, blue. Where's the sightseeing buses? They're no longer here. Great. Let's find one. Come on. Where are these buses? There it is. So now they're blue. But yeah, this mod doesn't change those because those are part of the line. But cars are actually changeable. So for example, let's see. This car is a sedan. You can find the sedan here. And let's say I want all sedans to be like pink and just crazy colors, purple and lime green and like that. And now you see that one changed color, and there's probably gonna be some green ones and purple ones. Here, let's add a crazy color, like hot pink, like that. So I'm sure we'll be able to find some. There's a whole bunch of orange ones here. Really, no greens or purples? There must be some around. Doesn't matter. Not important. You get the point. Just play with all these settings. Make sure that if you disable anything, that you have a backup option. Otherwise, because you can also turn off, sorry, color variations. There we go. Now we have some pink versions, some lime greens. There we go. If you don't do this, if you disable anything, some things may not work. So for example, if you have police, in my case, obviously there's a bunch of crime because there's no police cars that can go, fix that. Same with the fire safety, for example. If you have a fire truck, I have fire trucks disabled because obviously I'm using custom ones. So I have mods to prevent fires from happening. That's why they haven't happened. But crime, obviously, it's rampant in the city. So yeah. Okay, is this city Nidal? No, this is not Nidal. This is another city that I put together a while back. Okay, so let's see what else is next on the list. And again, I'm gonna remind you at the end of the live stream, I'll just answer a lot of questions that you may have that I maybe didn't cover. Already talked about less steam at the beginning of this live stream, so I'm not gonna go through that again. Random tree rotation. So this is kind of an optional mod. I put it here because I think it just gives it a lot of detail to your cities with not a whole lot of effort, but it's not like a mandatory mod or anything like that. So basically what this does is by default, when you're placing down trees, let me go back here. By the way, here's a quick tip when placing trees with these landscaping tools. Go to brush size. If you keep the brush strength all the way up, if you click and drag, it'll just create a ton of trees. And it's really easy if you just do one click to actually place a lot of trees at once. So you see, like they're like really close together, and suddenly just plopped a billion trees. So I recommend is bring this to 0. So when you click, like the basically it just places trees every tick or something like that. It's a bit more efficient, especially if you're trying to like decorate things. In any case, you can see the effect of this mod already on the screen. As I drag or move this, I'm actually just moving this, not clicking or dragging or anything. You can see the tree rotating. And the cool thing about this is that it just gives it a bit more interesting looks, because otherwise if the trees are all facing the same way, it just doesn't look great. It looks a bit too repetitive. So I recommend this mod. Pretty straightforward. All you have to do is just subscribe to it and then it works automatically. You can't disable as far as I know. Is there any option here to disable? I don't think so. The only way to disable is just unsubscribe it. If you unsubscribe to it, I think the trees remain rotated, but don't quote me on that. I don't recall. Like I said at the beginning, most of these mods, if not all of them, you can just disable and the city will just work fine. They're not gonna break or have missing assets or anything like that. So just something to keep in mind. Let's see. Do you guys use tree snapping mod? My trees are floating around. I never use tree snapping mod. I never had the need to move trees up. Like, I've never done green roofs or anything. But I've heard there's been so many screenshots all over Reddit where people have like flying trees, like it's like the apocalypse or something like that. It's just a bug. But I've never used it, so I don't know what to tell you. And in fact, one of the main reasons why I haven't used it is because that bug is still a thing, even after a year and a half, I think, of the mod's existence. You can have the same tree rotation with Shicho mod, sorry. That has just some more options, not basic. Okay, I'll check that out. This one is by Bo Fulmer, by the way, who's also a pretty well-known asset creator. No, sorry, Judas, not Bo Fulmer. I mean, they both are, but... next on the list, do you use prop snapping? Oh, you bet I use prop snapping, but that's not essential to vanilla gameplay, I don't think. That's why I didn't include it in this essential list, but it's also a highly recommended mod. Precision engineering. So this one, it's one of the earliest mods. It used to be like the most popular mod for forever. In fact, it probably still is. So a while back when I was showing you the Find Road tools, you probably remember that all these like numbers that were showing up as I was creating roads. By the way, I'm holding shift now, so you can get even more details. This was built into the game at some point. So this, for example, these guides are actually vanilla. The game sort of integrated this feature into the base game. But it's kind of like every time Colossal Order just bakes mods into the game, they're like usually like simpler versions of those mods to not overwhelm players. I think that's why they do it that way, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But that's why I still use precision engineering after all these years, because it just gives you a lot more information. So just by default, you get, this is how vanilla shows things, but if you hold shift, now you get not only the units, for example, the length, but also you get meters. You get the difference in height and elevation, in this case, -2 meters. If you're connecting two nodes together, you get angles even, and if you hold shift, it will just snap to, actually, sorry. There's like modifiers that you can use with keys that just snap. Yeah, you can see I'm snapping every 5 degrees here by holding control as I rotate things. And the same goes over here. So you get a ton of information that is super helpful. So precision engineering just gives you all this. Just hold shift as you drag things, or hold shift and control to snap and to different angles and things like that. If you're not connected to any nodes, by default it will just snap to the underlying invisible grid of the map. So if I zoom out, you can see that there's like a straight line here, right? So if I click this, you see how it just snaps to 90 degrees here and 0 degrees on this side, on this axis. Pretty straightforward. Do you like the new Park Life DLC? I do, actually. Thank you, Ali, for your donation. Much appreciated. Somehow I missed that. Okay, now it's showing up on the screen. That's why I missed it. I do, actually. It's not essential. It's not like a must-have. But I've been using it a lot in the next episode of Nidal. I've used it a lot in this city that I put together for Paradox. They wanted me to help them create a city for the trailer, and I did. So this is why I created this city. It really depends on what you want to do. I've never played with the base game mechanics of Park Life, so I don't know how fun it is to actually build a theme park like this. For a theme park, I would probably use custom assets. I'm not a huge fan of how these look. But the zoo actually looks really nice. And the natural park as well. Some of these boulders are actually kind of pretty. So, yeah. I already kind of did a review on Park Life, so you should check out my 99% Vanilla project that I've been mentioning for quite some time. Longer videos, thanks, you're welcome. Thank you again for your donation. Longer videos, yeah, I mean, longer videos take some time, but I guess this will be technically a longer video once it's actually up. I'm doing my best to have a variety of videos, but lately I've only had time to actually put shorter videos, and most people tend to prefer short videos anyway, so I prefer to have more videos more often that way. But I'll take your advice, good sir. Thank you so much. Okay, precision engineering, I think we covered that. What is the mod that displays more information about the city in real life time they use in FPS? Flex, do you know? I think your extended info panel is what you're looking for. The one that just changes the toolbar and gives you a ton of detail. That's the name of the mod. Okay, continuing with the list. So we have precision engineering. We already covered loading screen mod, and we're reaching the end of our essentials mod list, and then we're gonna get to answering questions. So prop it up, also by Judas. This is an amazing mod. This is a mod that so if you're going for a detail oriented city, this mod is an absolute essential, and it will allow you to sort of unlock the vanilla buildings to be able to use them in a more aesthetic oriented fashion. So let me show you some examples. Let's see, what could be a good example? Let's actually let's go back here where there's like not a lot of noise and things happening. Let's go to the edge of the map. Let's get rid of this. So imagine we put down, where's these menus here? So imagine we put down this thing, the road maintenance building. And obviously I've customized all of these buildings many times over, so maybe that's not a good example. Let's see if I can find a decent example of something that I may have not ever used. I think this is a good example. So we have this like pavilion thing. What was the name of it? Botanical garden. So prop it up gives you this option, this little tree icon over here. So what you can do, well, it gives you this menu. First thing you can do is just make global changes. It basically replaces props and trees for the most part. So these are all the trees that are in the system right now that are loaded. All of them are vanilla, 100%. So this feature is only useful in case, let's say you have some other custom trees. So you can grab, for example, I don't want to make a hugely drastic change. Let's see if we can somehow change this tree. Is it the birch? Let's see if we can find it. Sugar maple. Let's actually do this. Might be easier. So we're going to go into this roundabout. We're going to use find it to find the sugar maple 1. So this is sugar maple 1. We increase the brush. We're combining all the mods that we just learned about. By the way, if you're using this large brush, you need to bring the strength back up. So you can do this. So now that we have that, let's say I put all these down and I'm like, oh man, it would be so nice if this instead was like these conifers over here. So you select maple 1 here, and you can just go conifer and click replace tree. And boom, now you just replace globally every single time you use this conifer, the sugar maple leaf all across the city. It will now be replaced with this conifer type 1. If you had custom trees, you could do that as well. You can also change it to another one after the fact. It's not like you're not destroying things. And I think there's a way to reset this. Well, I guess you'll have to come back and change it with sugar maple leaf 1, and then it goes back to normal. So that's one way to do it. But the funny thing, or at least the useful thing for me, is let's go back here. See, I can actually go beyond this limit now with this no border limit camera thing, so I can look at this building properly. So if you select the building, this applies global changes within buildings. So for example, this one has some like bushes and trees. I don't know exactly which ones are which, but it doesn't matter. You can do the same I'm about to show you from this menu for all buildings. But this is the cool thing. Let's go back to the last tab. If I click on the last tab and then click on a building, you'll see that now it brought up all the trees that I'm using in this building. Why do you need to do that global change? Oh, why do you need to do that global change? Because, like, let's say you put down a lot of conifers. So, for example, imagine you started playing the city in vanilla and you had all these, like, pine trees and everything like that. And then you find out that an asset creator like Mr. Mason or Pedelma has created a much better looking tree. And you're like, oh, man, I don't want to, like, remove all of these trees and put them again. I'm just going to go into Prop It Up and just replace it in one click. That's why you would use a feature like that. I rarely use that. I just start my maps with the trees that I want from scratch. I rarely change them after the fact. But if you want to make a drastic change just in one click, that's one way to do it. So go back to trees. Go to the tree tab, select the building, and it will pull up all the trees that are, you know, in this building. Same thing as before. You can, let's say I want tree 2 to actually be the conifer one. So I can click replace tree, and you'll see that tree 1, which was that one, now it's replaced with the conifer. Or let's say I want a cherry tree. There we go, same thing. But to me, the most important thing is usually these assets come with trees that are not necessarily the nicest ones. So if you click on this toggles here, it will ask you, hey, like if you're about to do this, this is like, you can't undo this change. You can undo it, but like it will take a little bit of work. So I usually don't care because the trees that usually come with things are not the nicest. So in this case, I'm just going to click yes. And suddenly the tree is completely gone. Small bushes. Look at these bushes over here. If I undo these things, boom, they're gone. If I click this with the trees with leaves, those are gone as well. And finally, this one. So now I stripped out everything from this building. All the trees, all the vegetation from this building is gone forever. Unless I just go manually and reset things. By the way, this is creating like a local file with settings. You can go in and like change it manually. It's a bit of a pain, but most likely if you're doing this kind of change, you don't really care. It is kind of a magical button, yes. And the same goes for props. So in this case, whoever made this asset just put all these weird random props. They're not following any order here. So if I go to props and then select the building again, I'll see every single prop that is not part of the base model. And this is great for detailing for the most part. If you're playing like 100% vanilla and you're not going to be putting down props or anything like that, this may not be the most useful mod for you, or at least not this section of the mod. But again, you could just uncheck, you know, flower garden, go bye-bye. So now those are gone. Let's get rid of the pavilion, which I think is this thing over here. The fountains, boom, gone. And so on and so forth. Sorry, can click that. And now, I mean, obviously I could keep going, removing the benches and the statues and whatever. I could, you know, there's a billion things that I could do. The idea here is that you can later come in and just add your own trees. So you can move it, for example, and just place your own trees wherever you want them. So let's say I want a nice edge of conifers around this thing, and now I can't. Now I can't, sorry. Not that before I couldn't, but now I have nothing else in here. That it's just cluttering and making this building look ugly, because the building itself is actually really nice. So now, if you're using a, you know, sort of a custom like ultra detail city, you could just use this asset, bring it back to life, if that makes any sense. Do know if the trees are still there. I replace them with custom trees, and then enable vanilla tree remover again. Yeah, it is weird. Technically, I think the trees are still loading. And I don't know exactly how it works. I think it's just like hiding them after the game loads. So for a split second, I think they do show up and load. But if you use the vanilla tree remover, that one is like just prevents everything from loading that's vanilla related. I used that mod before, but it causes a lot of issues with other mods, so I try to stay away from it. Oh yeah, good call. Someone is saying removing the silly parking lots. Yes, oh my god, those are the worst. I'm glad that that's no longer a thing with asset creators, but let's see if I can find one that has this problem so I can show you. Like, for example, this one. This is the entrance to the park. So it comes with these actually, I don't know if it will be supported by this mod, but let's take a look. Maybe it will be. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so I selected this park entrance here, and parking spaces O2 is just, it's terrible. These parking lots in front of buildings are not amazing. Let me see if I can find a better example for this. Actually, like one of these like large buildings would probably have some parking lot attached to it. No, nothing, really? Scrolling really fast through all these things. Let's go Grobles. Like high density commercial. By the way, all these filters, I mean, I don't have to explain them, but just something that exists. How come none of these have parking lots suddenly? Whenever you want parking lots, they're nowhere to be found. Really? Come on, just give me a parking lot. What about these ones? These ones have hedges, I think. What about this one? Okay, so yeah, you have hedges here. Basically, you can remove stuff like that. Again, I can go into props like this, and let's say I want to get rid of those hedges. Those are not trees, unfortunately. I think they're miscategorized. So hedge 2, want to get rid of that, and now I got rid of the hedges for this building. So if I use this building in other places, now it's going to be removed in those places as well. As you can see, those are gone. So essentially, we prop it up. You can live edit the props versus having to go into the asset editor. Oh yeah, don't go into the asset editor to create custom versions of this. I don't think it's worth it anymore. The only reason why I would go to the asset editor is in this project is because I needed to have some like of the regular vanilla buildings in the European themes. That's the only reason why. But yeah, don't go into the asset editor anymore. Just edit everything. Like for example, even this building. Let me get rid of this so you can actually see. Let's go back to props here, and if you want to get rid of these top billboards, now we can do so. Small billboards over here. All these like nasty things. It's so much easier, like, because this is a nice looking asset, just the props are annoying and ugly. So you can just strip everything down, and once you do that, this building is just going to be good for forever, basically, unless you reset your prop it up settings. You can always go back. But yeah, try police station. Oh yeah, that's a good call. I think I already removed everything from a police station. Yeah, like fire station, like this attached parking lot is just terrible. So you would go into here, props, and then you go parking spaces all 1, go away. That's the one with the handicap spot. Parking spaces number 2, go away. And now you have a nice clean slate, and you can even move it, select it, and bring it so that now this sidewalk line kind of matches this curve thingy over there. There's a bit of an overlap. It will create some glitchy vehicles coming in and out, but it's just going to be fine for the most part anyways. So I recommend you to do things like that. That just makes it look a little bit nicer. Okay, let's go with the final mod, and then I'll answer whatever questions you may have. Actually, there's 2 more mods. So network skins. I'm going to leave this one for last because it's a bit more complex, if you will. Property Anarchy. This one is, it's kind of, if you're going to do some level of detailing, you're going to need this mod. It's by Bloody Penguin as well. It just allows you to put down things without having the collision box, be in your way. So by default, if you have, I guess I already have it enabled, but if you didn't have that mod enabled, let me go back to trees. You wouldn't be able to place, like, for example, trees too close to the road. As soon as you start hovering over the road, it will just be invisible. So if that's happening to you, you can use Property Anarchy, and then you can have nice looking trees right flushed against the sidewalk, which is a bit more realistic, instead of having such larger gaps between things. So that, again, it's a pretty straightforward mod. It comes with a UI I think you can turn on. Let's actually see if we can find it, because why not? I don't think I've ever used the UI on this mod. Just have it on all the time. No UI. Oh yeah, by the way, it's right here. Property Anarchy. I think there's another mod. I think Find Road Tools is also allowing, you know, the ability to place props without having things, you know, having the collision boxes and things like that. So, but if you don't have that mod, it will show up here. So if it's off, it won't let you do that. Let's see if that's actually true. Yeah, I think it's overwriting it. You can see the chirpy changing color here. But again, it's right there. You can turn it on and off. Let's see if it has another Shift P. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, there's a lot of mods that have the same shortcuts, but you get the idea. Yeah, I think there's other mods allowing me to place down props, but trust me, Prop and Anarchy totally works, and I've been using it for a long, long time. I guess as far as I can tell, it's no longer needed, but it's there. Just know that it's there. In my opinion, saying words like building props vehicles by others ugly or annoying is kind of rude. Maybe just don't like it or not my type. You're right. Actually, you're correct. I shouldn't be using those terms. You know, it's like, and I get comments like this all the time with people like, oh, I can't believe you did that. That's just like so ugly. You suck. And it's like, I feel like when something like, for example, these assets are actually really nice. But when they put down these signs or billboards, you're just like, oh, dude, you had like an amazing thing and you ruined it by putting those signs. And you have like this like anger that sort of springs from inside of you. I should be, you know, I should be able to curve that a bit better. So yeah, I take your point. You are correct. They're not the prettiest. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, so last mod in the list is network skins right here. So this mod is also pretty powerful. It's not like totally mandatory or anything like that, but I use it a lot. And it's basically this UI over here. So whenever you're putting down roads or you know, for example, let's go with the 2-lane road with trees. So let's extend this. Let's just create a few of these here. Let's go use this thing so that I don't create bridges or things like that. So you can see that I have 3 tabs: ground, elevated, and bridge, which are the same that show up in this other mod. They're not related. They're just the things that the different types of networks that the game considers. So when we're at ground level, like we are right now, we have streetlights that spawn by default, the left tree and the right tree. These are like the configurations for these different types. Let's say it's switched to bicycle lanes, and you'll see the trees are gone because, you know, bicycle lanes don't have trees or grass or anything like that. So if we go one way again, we'll see the tree menu sort of pop up. So in this case, what I want is the left trees to, instead of being this tree that doesn't look great, I want conifers, because, you know, I have conifers all over my city. So I can just switch this to small conifer, and it's going to affect the left trees. And now on the left of this road, we're only going to have conifers. If I do it on both sides, I'll do that. And this is this only happens when after you drag them. So if you initially drag a road with these tree types, they will remain with those trees. As soon as I start putting down more things with these configurations, new roads after that will have the new types of trees. In fact, I can change these values to make things be closer together. So in this case, we're going to have a lot more trees, as you can see here. You can also remove the street lights if you want, this light poles. You can also replace it with other ones. So let's see, let's put like a crazy one, airport light. So now we have airport lights and a ton of trees. I don't know why you would want to think like this, but you can. Not only that, let's say you're like, oh, great, I love this design that I just came up with. But man, I already put down all these roads. Okay, so you can go upgrade road and just do this. And now everything gets upgraded with your new set of roads. So that's pretty handy. And I think these settings, or whatever the last setting you changed, remains on your save game. So whenever you boot up a game, it will just remember whatever is the last configuration that you switched. And if you, same goes for elevated. You can just change things for elevated modes. So in this case, let's see if we can elevate this a little bit. I have to go to normal mode. So by default, we have the concrete pillars, but I can change this to rail pillars, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, these are rail pillars now. You can also do things like this. Well, I'm outside of city limits now, but... So you can create all kinds of crazy things. It's pretty straightforward, as you can see. So yeah, just play with these settings. There's really not much I can tell you about this. It's sometimes it's a bit tricky to get things to like be perfectly aligned and things like that. And for that, I guess you can just simply grab, move it, and nudge things in place, and everything will work just fine. You can get custom pillars from the workshop too if you really want to. Do changes stay when you move these roads with Move It? Yes, they do. Actually, they get reset. This is one of the... that was a good question. Some of these are kind of finicky, especially with the pillars. The pillars are not working 100%. The trees are. So you can like literally move this, or the ones with the lights, and everything will just be fine. It will just update based on the length of the segment. Pillars, on the other hand, it will try to like standardize everything when you move it. So elevated roads, I would recommend just like get the shape that you want, and then just do like a final upgrade after the fact. What's happening? I think it's autosave that's happening. Super laggy. Yeah, I think that was autosave. Wow, suddenly everything is super slow. I don't know what's going on. I have like 1 frame per second. Let me pause the game real quick. What is that about? Let me see if I can delete all these things. I don't know what just happened there. Come on. There we go. Now it's back to normal. I think it was auto-saving. That's what is happening. But yeah, just try things. Worst thing that can happen, you just delete the segment that you put together. It's pretty straightforward. All right, so let me go back into the city, put it in a nice spot so we can see some action happening here. And yeah, let's answer some questions. That was the list of mods, my essential list of mods at least. Again, there's so many more mods that I usually use. If you're really interested in all the super crazy customized ones that I use, you can just check the collections that are linked 100% of the time in the description of every video that I make. So, there. Did you cover Relight Ultimate EyeCandy? I did. Yeah, you can rewind or just watch this this video later. Pillar settings, not saves. It says to default when you reload. Oh, yeah. What's your stream music and where can I find it? It's really nice. This is all the... Sorry, what? I'm just losing my voice here. All of my music is from Epidemic Sound. It's a library for YouTubers. But I mean, you can just purchase a license and listen to the music. Wow, what's happening with my voice? Give me just a second here. I don't know. There we go. I think that sounds a little bit better. I think I just have a sore throat a little bit. I don't know. Relight LUT doesn't show up in my game. Is that a bug? I mean, it should show up even here if I'm not mistaken. I mean, maybe you unsubscribe to it or something like that. It should show up. If Relight is enabled, it should show up easily. No Traffic Manager Present Edition. That mod is not a lightweight mod. That consumes quite a bit of resources. And yeah, I mean, I use it. I think it is pretty essential, but not absolutely essential. But yeah, it's if you're planning on getting like a little bit beyond the list of mods that I just covered, that is a good one to have. Would you do a budget PC build that is what you would consider the minimum to play City Skylines comfortably with mods and assets? There's no budget PC if you want to play with custom mods and assets, unfortunately. You're going to require at least 16 gigs of RAM to have a decent amount of custom assets. A GPU that can handle that is at least like 4 or 6 gigs of VRAM, of video RAM. So yeah, budget, like if you can barely play vanilla City Skylines, having custom assets, I would just not recommend it, or just try it really slowly. Like just add a few sets at a time instead of just subscribing to a collection of assets like, you know, the ones YouTubers usually have. Sorry. Maybe save a bit more money and like get a better PC later down the road. There's going to be a lot of cheap GPUs coming up now that NVIDIA is announcing their new line, so that might be something be worth waiting for. Let's see. Wow, chat is actually going really fast. I can't keep up. Any tips on making a realistic downtown area? $2.20 made a great video on making realistic cities, so I suggest you go check out that tutorial. Why do your episode of FPS look so much crisper and more colorful than Flux VSQs? Oh, I noticed when you did Gramercy as well. I use a different codec that they use to record. I think Flux is this. He's been hinting that he wants to switch to my recording flow and also do a higher resolution video. Basically, he does. He records in H264, and the gamma is a little bit off. So. And also, I have like a bit more contrast on my LUT. We have like different LUTs for FPS. We could never like sync those settings together. So yeah, that's why mine maybe look a little bit more crispy. But it's mostly because of the codec. I record on compress, and they record with compression codecs, if that makes sense. Where can I find all the assets, all custom roads? And by custom roads, I don't mean network extensions. So if you go here, I'll show you. If you go into, first of all, you can go to my Steam profile, and these are all my collections of assets for all the many projects that I have. So if you want my Untitled assets are here. The mods, like these are the actual mods that I use, by the way, in case you were wondering. I use like 67 mods. Many of the ones that I just covered, the ones that are green, weren't covered. But this is everything that I use. So if you want to go deeper, you can always find these things in my collection. But if you want to, this is how I get to the Steam Workshop homepage. If you just want like custom roads, what you would do is go to the homepage of the City Skylines Workshop and just click on road. And here you have a whole bunch of custom roads. Oh, these are interesting, actually. I just recently switched to Generable ones, but I need to check these out as well. Yeah, this is how you get network, like just all the network-based stuff. I'm actually trying not to use network extensions a lot. They're great, but I just want to be able to customize them a bit more, and it's a little bit harder. So I've been using all of these custom roads. I've been shown screenshots of a new set of custom roads that's coming probably in several months, because it's the most ambitious road overhaul that I've seen in City Skylines. It's gonna blow your mind if that ever comes to life, and I'm sure it will. So yeah. Have you used realistic population and consumption mod? I've used realistic population in Nidal as of the next episode that's coming. Yeah. Consumption, I haven't. What map theme LUT do you recommend? I recommend any of the Relight LUTs. I think those are a great way to start. And in terms of map theme, the ones from the workshop, I tend to go back to Cedar Valley 4K, as you can see here. It was custom made for, wait, really? It's not even, oh, because I'm in road. Cedar Valley 4K was made for the very first City Skylines project I did by Markfire. It was custom made. It still holds up to this day. The 4K thing is just like a marketing term. Like, don't be fooled by this. Like, you can run this on any computer. If you really, I mean, unless you have like no RAM at all, but it's pretty straightforward. There's like a ton of detail. You can actually see here how much detail this thing has. This is the mod that I would, the theme that I would recommend. There's other good ones by Markfire, but now there've been a whole bunch of others that have been released. Like Creative Decks has released a couple really decent ones, so it's just really up to you. But this one is like my favorite, even to this date. So, have you used the tree LOD fix? Yes, I have. I have that in Night Owl. Works great. It adds a lot of detail, thankfully, because trees in vanilla, as you can see, I mean, look at these trees, kind of like doing weird things. I actually talked to one of the City Skylines developers about that when I was in Sweden a couple months ago. And he basically said that there's not much they can do. It's just like a limitation of things. He wasn't like very specific with his answer, unfortunately, but yeah, that's kind of a thing. Let me move the camera somewhere else so that you get to see other things that are maybe happening in the city. Let's see. Have you tried the option in Find Road tool for the tram tracks? Yes, the next episode of, and also by Samsung TS. Yes, I have, and I've got like a billion comments saying that I should enable that. It is very much enabled. I can show you. What Samsung is talking about is this option. Change the max turn angle for more realistic tram turns. So let me show you what this looks like, in case you're wondering. So let's say you have. Let's bring that all the way down. I think I need to first disable this. So if we put down a tram track like this, so you get with like this like really sharp, ugly turns, which are not realistic. No tram can actually make this turn. So if you go into the options of Find Road tools, you can turn this on. And if I just upgrade this road, these are gone forever, or at least until I disable that option and redo the road. So pretty handy. Is this map up for download? Yes. Let me show you. Again, go to my Steam my Steam thingy profile, whatever, and Sound of Awe is the map that I'm currently working on. This is where we're at right now. Let's see, let's go back to the game. I noticed some custom buildings have the same tree LOD texture problem. What do you use to keep the building textures to stay sharp? Well, okay, so everything that you see in the game has LOD. So LODs is like, it stands for level of detail, if I'm not mistaken. And the purpose of that is so that when you're looking at your city from like a distance like this, the asset gets swapped with like a low poly version. Because imagine, like, the more you zoom out, the more polygons you see on the screen, and obviously that just puts more strain on your computer. So the way they're optimizing the game to run is they're creating like a low version, like a low poly version of the asset that looks okay from far away because it doesn't have a lot of detail. And when you zoom in, let's see if we can actually see one being changed. So like, look at this large building here. If I zoom out just a little bit here, do you see how it changes? It changed there, and it changed there. It changed there, and it changed there. There is no way to, I mean, there is I think there's adaptive prop visibility, but that's just for props to make like large props looks nice, because otherwise it despawn. This is like normal, the way things look from far away. If they look kind of crappy, it's because whoever made the asset didn't put a lot of effort into having the LOD version look nice. For the most part, I think most assets look fine when you're far away. There's really no way to control that unless you have this other mod, the LOD toggler. But that one just will bring you the full version, the full poly version of everything on the screen, and that can just like, you'll get 1 frame per second if you do that on a large city. But you can do it. It's certainly doable. Have you tested procedural objects yet? What do you think? I mean, I've seen people do amazing things with procedural objects. It's just too overwhelming for me. It's like literally you're modeling in game. I'm sure at some point I'll use it, but so far I haven't had a situation where I was like, oh man, if I could just bend this building a little bit, it would be great. I haven't gotten to that part yet. I'm still like, I'm still able to do everything that I want to, pretty much, with a basic, quote unquote basic tools. So, but I think it's super powerful for sure. I know Noguchi Maruyama is a big fan of that. Ever thinking about doing a Utopia planned city like Amar City? Maybe. I just started a brand new project that's probably going to be going for months, so I'm not even thinking about a next project after that. Are you ever going to play Stonehearth? I've reviewed Stonehearth when it came out. I mean, look, I don't. You probably don't know this, but I don't use YouTube full time. I just try to record, on every free minute that I have. So there's a lot of games that I would play if I was a full-time YouTuber, but I'm not really planning on doing that either. And since my time is pretty limited, I tend to focus on the games I really, really, truly enjoy, and City Skylines, as you can see, is one of them. I wanted to also play Jurassic World a lot, but in order to get everything unlocked from the sandbox mode, which is the one I really wanted to play, I mean, I had to play the whole mission, which was annoying, and I never finished it, so I'll probably never play Jurassic World Evolution any more than what I already did on a couple of live streams. So Stonehearth or any of those games, or Train Fever, I've tried them once just to see how they feel like and how they play, but that was about it. With procedural objects, you can also bypass the prop limit. Yeah, but I've never hit the prop limit anyways. In fact, with Nidal, which is the series that I'm working on right now, and I'm going to cover this in great detail in the next episode, but I've been trying to do or having all the networks and just buildings to do all the heavy lifting in terms of props. I've only placed 80 props, and it's already just tons of detail everywhere in the city. So I'm going to see how far I can push that. I think I'm able to get away with never hitting the prop limit and having pretty detailed cities regardless. But yeah, I know that's one way to, I guess, circumvent that. Let's see. There are many airports series reflecting lighting system mounted on high poles rather than direct lighting. There are many airports, a series reflecting light. I don't know what that means. With multiple bulbs reflects. You're talking about the way the lights worked in FPS? Oh yeah, because you don't want to beam light directly at. I think I talked about that in an episode. I think the lights by the freeway right next to the runway. Yeah, you don't want lights to beam directly to the pilots' faces as they're trying to approach a runway. They're kind of reflected so that they're not direct light. Is that what you mean? Have you ever been to Portugal? I haven't. I would love to though. Are the residential buildings on the screen right now vanilla or from the workshop? All of the assets that you see here, absolutely 100% of them are all vanilla. All of them. Seriously, everything. All the unique buildings, just everything. I've used mods to create this kind of city because none of these buildings are actually zoned, but they're all vanilla. There's not a single custom asset here. All these are Park Life DLCs. I don't even know which many DLCs I have. I think I have all of the DLCs at this point. Many of them I paid out of my pocket. Most of them I paid out of my pocket. Not Park Life because, they just give it to me so that I could put together the city, but everything else I paid out of my pocket. And Park Life actually the only one I didn't buy because I don't think it added a lot was the Rock City one. If you want my honest opinion on DLCs, I didn't think that would bring anything to the game. anything meaningful at least. Park life, mass transit, snowfall. Those are like must-haves. By the way, we're gonna have some giveaways on the live stream we're doing next weekend. Just so you know, you don't want to miss that. We're gonna be giving away some DLCs of your choosing. By the way, we kind of hinted at that, but like I'm telling you straight on, that's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be next Saturday on Flux's channel. We're all gonna get together in the same room at Fluxplex Studios. So just a little bit of a self-promotion ish. Do you have a wish for future mods? Wish list for future mods. I mean, if it were for me, I would wish everything. Those set of roads that I was mentioning a second ago, those set of custom roads, they're gonna be amazing when they come out. And I've been already like asking the creators to do certain things, even though they're already pretty much are doing everything that I've ever wanted to and more. Yeah, I would just like more variety of generic looking things, not like exact copies of buildings in real life. I try to create things that are not, I mean, even though I did a city that was like literally a copy of another city in real life, I don't think I'll do a project like that again. I didn't have as much fun as just coming up with random things. But yeah, I wish like there were more like billboards and things that are just like generic looking. Like even this ones, they don't look great, like I said a minute ago, but they're generic enough that can be applied to anything. Like I prefer to have like made up brands instead of having, you know, like American Airlines planes or Coca-Cola billboards or things like that. So I'm not gonna only miss the stream, but also the giveaway. Yeah, I mean the stream you can watch it later. The giveaway you have to be there, unfortunately, Chris. Sorry. Yeah, this traffic circle. I mean, it works for the most part. It used to be much worse. I think I tweaked it a little bit with Traffic Manager. I don't even know. I can't tell because I don't have it enabled, but I think the changes remain. I would like to see a city recreation series on this channel. Yeah, I literally just said a second ago that I don't think I'll ever do that again. So, but you never know. Certainly not something that I'm planning on. If the opportunity arises, you know, for whatever reason, I might consider it. But if as a thing that I would just do for me for fun, probably not. Why can't we donate? What do you mean? What would you like to donate? I have a Patreon page if you like to donate and also get some perks. What's being given away? Strictoster merch? No, DLCs. We're going to be giving away DLCs of your choosing. So if you need to complete your collection of DLCs, this would probably be a good opportunity to do so. All right, so I'm gonna stream for another 2 more minutes, and that will, I guess, complete 2.5 hours of stream. So this will be the last round of questions. Have you seen the Cork Rebuild series? I have not. Yeah, there's no police vehicles at all. Do you need some picks for BSQ or new trains from Europe's biggest train fair? The Inno trains in September for Nidal. I could send you some if needed. There's sure. I mean, if you want to send me some, for sure. But I don't know. I haven't talked to any asset creators at this point to have custom trains. In fact, I'm already using a few custom generic-looking trains from. I think I'm blanking on his name. I think it was Reeve Zero or Revo, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I'm using his trains. They're great. So I'm gonna stick to those for a bit. Maybe I'll change them later. I don't know. Can you show us the glitch to fix the high differences by using the road once more? Sure. Do you have any like specific questions? Like what are you struggling with? I can certainly show you. I guess we can come back to this area right here. Actually, this could be a good way to do it. So first, select the things that you want raised. So let's say you want these nodes And you want these 3 buildings to be aligned to, I don't know, this top node. I know this is going to be ugly as hell, but it will be pretty visible. So what you do is once you have all these selected, by the way, I'm using shift to click and select more things. If I click again, the orange version just deselects. So that's how it works. And then you go to align heights, and then it will turn to this white selection mode. So at this point, you just select whatever you want the desired height to be. In this case, we wanted this top node. So let me rotate the camera so you can see it. Click there, and now all of this is perfectly level to this upper street here. Hopefully that made sense. Any plan to build a casino city? No plans on building a casino city. Yes, but it says this broadcaster doesn't have donations enabled. I think I have sponsorships enabled, not donations. I don't. Yeah, I honestly, it must be like a new feature or something like that. I haven't really been paying attention. I appreciate it. You can donate via cryptocurrencies. There's like there's like wallets in the description. But I do appreciate the effort regardless. Sorry that I didn't have the option enabled. How are you contacting asset creators to commission custom assets? I would like to do so, but don't know the best avenue. Just via workshop, would imagine get slammed with messages. Many asset creators are in the Discord for Cities Skylines asset creators. And I usually word of mouth. I like Beaslehausen knows a lot of them, so anytime I need to like contact someone in particular, I just ask him, and he like does like an intro or something like that. But yeah, probably the Discord City Skylines Creators channel is the way to go. Have you ever played SimCity? Oh man, you must be new here. Go check out literally my first video ever on my channel. Are you gonna stream more often? Yeah, I mean, I've been streaming like at least once or twice a month. I guess that's not often, you know, given like other people's standards in terms of streaming schedules, but I tend to prioritize making videos because that's what everyone wants me to, or at least everyone enjoying from my content. But Night Owl, there's going to be a lot of things from Night Owl that will require live stream. So whenever I do like mass transit things, like adding bus lines and things like that, I'll probably stream that instead of just do it really quickly in a time lapse that you can't see anything. So expected live stream for Night Owl maybe in a couple of weeks if everything goes according to plan. Good time with you today. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you, Hubert. Have a nice rest of the evening yourself. What laws do you recommend for winter maps? Oh, that's a good question. I think Relight LUTs work fine for winter mods. I think I can't remember what I was using. I did a winter project once. I can't remember exactly which. Actually, here, let me pull it up because I can't. Did I actually list the this thing here? Well, I guess this is the collection. Do I have the LUT that I use for this one? Is there any way that I can filter this? Honestly, I can't remember. I think it was a combination of things, not just the one LUT. But try Relight ones. I was using this winter theme. Let's see if these actually outline which LUT would pair well with this. Oh yeah, the realistic LUTs will look nice with this, as she says. 1.2, but I think Relights came out after this one, and they're a little bit better. I don't think I used Captain Soap's LUTs before. They're a little bit too saturated in some cases, but I think, yeah, I would recommend just Relight. Just give it a shot. Can you give the link to City Skylines channel? I can try. Let's see. honestly have no idea how to link you to that. I think it's like invitation only now. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. You should talk to Crumbs McGee. He's the one that runs runs this thing. Yeah, I don't even know how to like send you a link to this. Yeah, talk to Crumbs McGee. He's the one that can invite people, as far as I understand. And also, I mean, look, messaging people on Steam is totally valid too. I mean, I get some messages on Steam, but it's not like overwhelming or anything. So, just so you know, like asset creators are not just gonna randomly make things that at your request. Like they need to be into it somehow. Like I've asked asset creators to do things for me, and they're like, "Nah, I don't really feel like doing that," and that's totally fine. So, just yeah. They're not just like waiting for someone to give them like the best idea in the world. They have amazing ideas already. They just don't have the time. And some I know do assets on commission. So if you're willing to pay some money for it, you'll have much better luck that way. Will lane snapping of roads make the simulation complicated? I don't understand what that means. They're lane snapping? Which mod are you using to adjust roads? I use all kinds of mods. You should rewind this whole live stream because I literally just talked about that. Sorry, I don't mean to sound like a dick or anything, but I just like spent 2 hours talking about it. Okay, last couple questions. When will the next Night Owl episode will be out for Patreons? Well, I mean, I just have the whole episode recorded and everything. Hopefully, I can get the commentary done later this evening. So maybe tonight? For me, like Pacific time tonight, or tomorrow, like Sunday morning Pacific time as well. Definitely before Monday. What's your opinion on using monorail as mass transit in your city? Too noisy, looks good in the city. I've never used monorail. Monorails are not common, at least not in cities. So honestly, if I needed a city to like use monorail, I would probably just go with the Metro Overhaul mod. I think that's a much more detailed transit oriented thing that could look kind of like, I mean, it's not a monorail, I know, but it's more like, looks more like it belongs in an urban area. I think the monorail is just like these like aerostatic balloons in the background, and they're just like, it's like your cliche thing from a city, but they're not that common. So unless you're building a city like, I don't know, like Seattle that has like a monorail ride downtown, or that's the only city I can think of. But it looks okay, I mean, but yeah, it's a little bit unrealistic, maybe, or at least not as common. Can you make this screenshot for me and send me on Discord? Which screenshot of what? Of what you're looking at on the screen? You can take a screenshot of the screen, or you can just go to the my video where I actually cover this. I don't know. Where do you found these jazz tracks? All the music that I use is from epidemicsound.com. It's a paid library for asset creators, or sorry, for content creators. What about the Elite Tram track assets? Yeah, I recently switched to those in Night Owl. So let me turn off this rain because I think it's probably messing up the stream. Boom, gone. Look at all the problems. And they disappear. They look great. I've been customizing them a little bit, using other mods, of course. But yeah, they look great. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna wrap this one up. I've been going for quite some time. My throat is just dead at this point. I can't say anything. I need to rest a little bit so I can get that commentary done. And hopefully you get to enjoy an episode of Night Owl. If you're a patron, probably before Monday. And if you're not a patron, it will probably be, I don't know, I'm guessing Tuesday or Wednesday. But hopefully you learned a thing or two. If you are watching this in the future, again, just a reminder, probably it's a little bit too late at this point, but there's going to be links in the description to the different timestamps. You can always come back to those as you wish. Hopefully it wasn't so much all over the place that it actually makes sense. But that's all for now. Thank you so much for tuning in, and yeah, hope to see you guys in the next one. Have a great weekend.